Thank you for joining me. I'm Adil. I'm head of product at Nearpay. What exactly is Nearpay? Jeff told me to give you a quick introduction because I forgot to include it in part of the slides. We're a tap-to-pay technology infrastructure. So we provide it to acquirers, fintechs, payfacs. We're Saudi-based. So Saudi and Dubai, our main headquarters are there. We're in the Middle East, but we're expanding to Europe and the US. So we're exploring, and this is our first kind of like a first presentation in Europe, and I'm very excited to be here. And thank you all for joining us. What we're talking about today is some of the interesting things that we're seeing on the consumer behaviors that are shifting or affecting payment acceptance in emerging markets where we're present, in Saudi, in UAE, in Jordan, in Africa, in Kenya, Nigeria. And then talking about how those are affecting payment acceptance, basically how those are affecting payment acceptance technology innovations. So there are three main consumer trends at a very general level. So I think this is across the world. We're seeing digitization, obviously technology adoption, new phones, mobile phones, etc. So digitization of across all sectors and industries. The second thing that we're seeing is personalization. So customers are very focused on having personal experiences. We'll talk a little bit about how that's happening in the MENA region and in emerging markets where we're present. And I'm very excited to. I've learned a lot about the European payment sector and all the merchants that have been here and talking to them. So it's been exciting to learn how personalization plays into it. And finally, speed. I think speed is always on top of consumers' minds. Like, I want to get faster transactions. I want to do faster purchases. So we'll talk a little bit about this and what's happening in MENA, as well as things that we're seeing in other emerging markets. About digitization, I mean, everyone sees that Apple Pay, Google Pay, digital wallet adoption has been increasing. So phones are the main payment vehicle that we're seeing across MENA, specifically Saudi. You would see it's a big market for Apple, and it's a big market for Apple, and that's why Apple Tap to Pay, Apple Pay, all these are products that they're launching. Apple VAS is also something that is being worked upon in Saudi as well as in Dubai and Jordan. So all these markets, they're huge markets for Apple, and you see that because of the presence of phones and taking transactions or performing transactions, having tickets, doing value-added services like loyalty rewards, they're all playing a big part in the phones are playing a huge part in those markets. And then you have neobank adoption. So classically, Saudi, UAE, Jordan, these markets have been very underbanked. So people haven't had bank accounts. A lot of younger people don't have access to open up bank accounts. So these neobanks have come in and they've offered them wallets with cards as a payment method, and they've been very, very successful. So like one of the very big telecom providers in Saudi, very big STC, they have 10 million onboarded users onto their wallet system, which is 30% of the country's population. So they've had a very good penetration in the last just 2 years. They've been around for 2-3 years. So you can see that people have skipped the idea of opening a bank account with traditional banks and gone straight to these neobanks. Other emerging markets, similar things are happening. In Africa, for example, we're seeing similar things in Kenya and Nigeria. And that's increasing card penetration because you have a wallet with a card issued to it. What's happening on the payments acceptance side is that people have realized this, and as these consumer behaviors of adopting new technology are coming around, people have started, a lot of the processors, they've started doing omni-channel payments. So a classic payment gateway once was offering only payment gateway, only online transactions. They started onboarding SoftPOS or regular POS. They started including buy now, pay later as an option, installments as an option as well. So on a POS, you have all these different options where you can pay right at the POS. Or online as well, you can go and you can ask for lending, you can ask for installments, you can ask for loans from the banks. So a lot of these payment methods are coming together into an omni-channel payments. And account-to-account is newer in the Middle East. Open banking regulations they've come in from Europe and from the UK. And just this year, they're trying to do payment initiation. So right now, you can read open banking, you can read account information, etc. That's implemented in Saudi, but account-to-account transfers is still it's still very new. However, people have been requesting, and people have seen this work in Europe. People have seen this working in the UK, and they're very excited about the possibilities of building new technology based on account-to-account payments, especially merchants don't. They're charged on the local scheme in Saudi. They're charged like 0.8%. That's like the max. That's capped at 0.8%. But they're seeing the account-to-account payments is a way to reduce that even further, so they can increase their margins. So they're very excited about this. It's supposed to be coming in Q3. So payment initiation will be coming later this year. Personalization. So we already know that Gen Z and millennials, like we're different, right? They have different purchasing behaviors, and personalization is a huge thing for them. We'll talk a little about what we're seeing on the personalization side in Saudi Arabia just in a second. The other thing is what's in it for me. So rewards and loyalty. Classically, rewards and loyalty have not been, credit cards haven't been that big in the Saudi region, in the UAE region. They haven't been that big because it's hard to get a credit from the banks. So now the banks are starting to roll these things out. So they're trying to include rewards and loyalty, etc. And finally, my choice. When you go to any of these retailers, whether it's online or in person, Gen Z, millennials, people want to pay the way they want to pay. They don't want to be restricted into a specific only cash or only card. They want to have all the options. So what's happening? What's the result of that on the payments acceptance side? We're seeing a lot of embedded and seamless experiences. We're seeing, personally, if you take a look at some of the payment acceptance people yesterday were talking about this, but you're seeing embedded kiosks with embedded payments, right? You see soft posts embedded in a current application, or you see with buy now, pay later options, with installments, with a QR code. All those different options are available for the consumer, and the payment acceptance companies and the PSPs and the PayFacs have to adjust to that and adapt to that. You're seeing loyalty and rewards programs, so you're seeing more focus on points. Points are huge in the States, airline, travel points, etc., air miles, etc. A lot of different options. That hasn't been available to the UAE and Saudi market classically, but now you see Emirates and you see a lot of these airlines, they're bringing in point systems and linking them with credit cards and incentivizing people. Apart from that, the merchants themselves, usually they have independent systems where Dunkin' Donuts or some of these merchants like coffee houses, they have their own points system. Starbucks, etc. is very popular. So what we're seeing is like an integrated experience. So Apple VAS is coming, where we on our side have also built this out, where you pay with your card and it automatically adds points to your whatever to Dunkin' Donuts or your loyalty program that you're part of. Automatically it'll add points to it. So we're seeing cool experiences where it's all embedded, all in one. And finally, recommendations. Whether that's on the POS side or the online side, we're seeing that people want more recommendations. So they want, okay, I've paid, I've bought, I like this coffee place, you have my data, give me more recommendations on similar coffee places. I've shopped at this merchant, give me more recommendations on similar merchants that are there. So they want more and more recommendations. And finally, the last consumer trend obviously is speed that we saw. So you always have to weigh between convenience and security here. Federico from MasterCard was talking about this yesterday. There's a fine balance between that. What we're seeing is how is this affecting payment acceptance is faster checkout. So NFC, if it's, regulatory-wise, if it's more than 2 seconds, the regulator in Saudi kind of frowns on it. Why is it so long? Why is it 3 seconds, 4 seconds? You get into issues with timeouts, etc. So fast NFC payments is all the rage there. One-click checkout is getting bigger. You have the Shopify equivalent in the Saudi and the UAE region that are really focused on creating this one-click checkout experience, and that comes with obviously card on file is a big thing there, right? Faster authentication, so biometrics. So biometrics is becoming bigger. There's unique solutions out there that where biometrics is linked with one-click checkout, and you can kind of like just scan your face and go through the payment process and pay for an item. Certain stores in Saudi and UAE have started pay with face. So there are some projects, POCs out there, pay with palm, pay with face. These are also on the rise there. Just to create faster experiences for people. Tokenization has always been big, but more and more linking tokenization. Classically, it hasn't been allowed to like link tokenization with tokenized cards with like personal information of users. But the regulator is more opening up to this, where you can then create unique experiences for people, where once they pay once, you can send them receipts automatically. You can send them. You have their card stored against their information stored against a tokenized card. So then you can do unique things where loyalty programs and receipts, et cetera, et cetera. So the regulator is coming around to this. And finally, self-service. So we've seen this in Singapore, we've seen this in Malaysia, in Saudi, UAE. We're seeing a rise. Also, the US has always had this kiosks and the payments, embedded payments in kiosks. So that's becoming a big thing whether that's at train stations or whether that's at restaurants or retail stores. People want faster and faster checkout, so they prefer buying everything through kiosk and just waiting for their order at any restaurant and they just have to wait for their order to come out then. And it's all embedded. So the payment goes, you order, it comes in through the POS system, the number is checked, the kitchen display system has the information, the order is made and given to the person very quickly. So, and finally, pay at the table. So this is something that someone mentioned yesterday that they don't see a lot in the UK, but pay at the table, whether through NFC or QR code. This is making it, especially at high-end luxury restaurants and luxury retail, luxury restaurants and luxury coffee shops, for example. People just want to order through the application, through a QR code, pay through a QR code, and leave. They don't want to interact with anybody. They don't want to do anything. So this is also on the rise. There's a couple of companies based out of Saudi and UAE that are facilitating this. That's kind of it. Those are the kind of things that I wanted to just like talk about today, give you some insight on what we're seeing in the Saudi and the Middle East and some emerging markets. Happy to answer any questions. I don't have a specific slide or a Slido, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Adil. Thank you very much.